Hello, Mark Red Larson here for the Dreamcatcher podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today, my guest is Mark Stephenson from Arizona. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
Well, thanks for being on the Dreamcatcher podcast. So Mark, Arizona, is that your home state?
Not born here, but I've lived all my life here. Yes.
Okay, that's so. You would recommend it then?
I think it's an amazing place. It gets really hot here in the Phoenix area, but we're not too far from coolness, so
Oh, that's good
you
too.
don't have to drive too far to get to some place that's much cooler than Phoenix.
That's awesome. So, what are your winters like there?
So we got a lot of snowbirds. So in the
Oh,
past,
I
we had a
bet.
lot of retirement communities, Sun City, Sun Lakes, areas around Phoenix where a lot of people from the Midwest come to winter so they don't have to deal with the snow.
Okay, very nice. So down there, what do you do for to fill your time?
So I'm still a nurse. I work in a cath lab, so I see a lot of people that are dealing with heart disease, and I think part
Oh,
of that
wow.
is some of the direction that I think that I'm following. So just going back to a little bit we were talking about, I'm vegan,
Mhm.
and I think that that is perhaps the safest way to go if you want to prevent heart disease. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is. I mean, yeah. If you're doing that, I bet you do see a lot of it. So okay, vegan. I mean, how are you? I mean, vegan diet. Are you coming up with products or?
no, like I have a little YouTube channel called Poppin' the Plant Flavor where I'm kind of exploring me cooking a little bit, and I
Cool.
am not perfect at it yet. And maybe there's some people in the audience here who have some great plant-based recipes, and I'd love to cook with you. So anybody
Awesome.
that's willing to come on camera with me, or talk me through, I'm willing to take suggestions. So I'm basically
Okay.
on there just pulling out recipes and cooking them. I go the hardcore forks over knives when I'm cooking it myself.
Okay.
But do I occasionally eat some oil and stuff like that? Yeah, occasionally I try to limit it. So
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to live. Do I think because some people are staunch whatever they do, and I think that is good to do a little bit of everything. So okay. And we were talking. You were with something with travel. You were doing something that you're kind of
yeah,
getting into that?
I've been watching a little bit of Alex Hormozy, trying to come up with my offer that's so good people can't refuse. And in my mind, I would love to go visit places that I've never visited before and take people with me and
Awesome.
create something along those lines. In my mind, either twice a year or maybe every quarter, but still working on that.
Okay, that's cool. And I know we talked about it was a while back at a post that we were both kind of quiet growing up and that we kind of found our voice and stuff like that. So what kind of brought you out to doing this? I mean,
I think it's just been a journey, you know what I mean? Like that's not
hmm
where I started. Sometimes I'm influenced by kindred spirits. Like I think that you and I are kindred spirits.
I
So
would agree.
I think that we share some commonalities, you know what I mean? Like we're both from different states, but I've seen
Yep.
just a hint. Like I haven't been on your YouTube channel yet, but I've seen some of your posts on Facebook and
Yep.
love the sunsets. I mean, here in
There
Arizona,
are a
we
few.
have some amazing sunsets also.
Oh
So
yeah.
uh, just I think it's a common thread in human nature that people want to connect, and they're attracted to the people that they have some sort of similarities around.
Yep. I would agree. So okay. I can tell we both like to help people. So with you YouTube, you said you had more than one YouTube. So what is like looking down the what would you like to still do that you haven't done?
I think there's a lot of countries that I haven't seen that I would love to see. There's a lot of states that I haven't seen. I haven't been to Nebraska,
Haven't
and
you?
I'd love to know, like, hey, what's cool to see in Nebraska? Like, if you
Yeah.
came to Arizona, I still haven't explored everything here,
Oh,
but I
I
can
bet.
point you in a direction like, hey, these are some of the places that I've been that I think are cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then just going to new places where I've never been and say, plus, I think it would be cool to connect with people there. Like, hey, I've never
Yep.
been to Nebraska.
Yep.
Where's cool to see? You know what I mean? I've
Yeah.
got a buddy
Yeah.
in Missouri. I haven't
Yep.
been there yet. What's
Okay.
cool to see?
Yeah. Yeah, and each state does. People dismiss, especially central like Nebraska, they dismiss it. It's like, oh, it's just corn and cattle, and it's like, well, there's a lot more to it than that. So,
I bet
and
you there's some corners that I haven't seen for sure. So
yeah, and actually, Nebraska has the largest sand dunes in the Western Hemisphere. It's actually our sand hills, which are covered with grass. The sand covers the grass, but it is. If you're from air, you can see the dunes really well. And people are like, wow. I mean, and also to watch the stars because my nearest neighbor's like 10 miles away. So we have very little light pollution. So it's for stargazing is amazing. But yeah, for a while there, I mean, our state motto was nice, and it's like, how long did that take to come up with? I mean, and people are nice, but people everywhere. I mean, I really have never found a place where people aren't nice, and just like I'm sure down in Arizona, I always hear Sedona, and that looks like it'd be a awesome place to go to. So, you've probably been to Sedona?
oh yeah.
That looks beautiful, and everybody I've ever heard that's gone down there has loved Sedona. So what are some of your the favorite places in Arizona that you have visited?
So Sedona, of course, is a very beautiful place. So you go down to Tucson. There's a place called Karchner Caverns.
Okay,
It's not the biggest cave in the state you know what I mean, even in the U.S., but it's kind of cool to see. We've
okay,
got a lot of Southwest Mexican influence here. There's a lot of Mexican food. That's one thing that we are
that'd be awesome.
pretty good at.
That would be awesome. No, good Mexican food is awesome. That's for sure. So okay, you said you like to travel. I mean, have you been over to Europe? And what are some places outside the United States you've traveled?
I've been to when I was 7. We drove a motorhome to Alaska, so I've been through
Oh, cool.
Canada.
Okay.
I remember a little bit about it.
Uh huh.
When I was younger, I went to Mexico more frequently than I've been recently. I've been to I did a bus tour through Germany and
Nice.
uh, Austria when I was, many years ago. I've
Okay.
been to Russia and Ukraine a few times.
Wow. Okay.
My wife is Ukrainian, so
Okay.
her father still lives in the Ukraine, and
Oh wow.
so they were liberated earlier this year because he's in
Good.
Kherson, so that's
Okay.
caused a little bit of
Oh yeah.
anxiety.
I bet just a
Um,
little bit. No, I mean that whole thing. There's a lot of things in the world that are terrible, and that's for sure. So what did you think of like Russia and those? I mean, those countries were they what you thought they'd be like?
it's very so. When I was there, I stayed in typically not hotels, but apartments that other people had, kind of almost like an Airbnb type atmosphere.
Okay,
And
okay.
so some of those apartments were the elevators. I was afraid
Oh,
that
really? Okay, that says something right there. Then.
they were definitely something that are not as well maintained as here in the U.S. And I don't know if that's everywhere, but the few times that I've been there, that was the thing that I noticed the most was like, these elevators, will I make it to my
Yeah, you want
floor?
those maintained. That's for sure. Because yeah, you don't want to try those out and have not worked. Oh, what a ride that'd be. Might be your last ride too. No, wow. So, how about the food over there?
It's different. So my wife is a very good cook. They eat a lot of, so most of Eastern Europe has some sort of borscht, which is kind of like a beet.
Okay,
And I think different places they use different meats, but traditionally I think a lot of them use beef, but I think sometimes they use pork.
okay,
It's usually got carrots, and Ukrainians use a lot of dill.
okay.
Um,
That sounds
some
good.
people put sour cream on it, some don't. So
Okay. Well, okay. So you said you like to cook. What's some of your favorite things to cook?
I like exploring new things. So sometimes you know what I mean? Like I love Mexican food. I've lived here all my life. So
Yeah,
love
Mexican food
Italian
is
food. I'm tasting more and more Indian food, and I like the little that I've had.
yeah
Um,
with curry and all
I
that. Yes.
tried to make a West African stew once, and that was pretty good. It was I had sweet potato, and I can't remember. I think there was some sort of bean in it, but I don't remember. That
Okay,
was a
that
while
sounds
ago.
interesting. That sounds very interesting. So, would you ever want to open like a cooking school?
Possibly.
Okay. Hey, that's I can understand that. So, but it has crossed your mind maybe to do something like
Yeah,
that.
I've thought about, like, my wife would love to. So before we got married, she went back to the Ukraine, actually studied to be like with French people or people, Ukrainians that had learned from French people how to bake. So she's very
Oh
much
wow,
into the French baking and stuff like this. So
that
they do
sounds good.
multiple layers. And would she love to have a bakery? Yes. And I've kind of like thought about, oh, it would be kind of cool. I
It
thought about like,
would.
oh, sinners and saints. Like we've got the pastry, which probably isn't the best for you, and
Probably
maybe if
not.
you eat
Yeah.
it in limited amounts, it's
Yep. Hmm.
okay. And then, oh, over here we're cooking the hardcore vegan stuff, so
Uh huh.
maybe a little better for you. So you
Yeah.
get to decide on that
Yeah.
day what you're going to be, the sinner or the saint.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of both, maybe, or I don't know. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. So, and I asked you earlier if you, before we get started here, if you thought about doing a podcast sometime. I mean, would you ever want to do
Um,
that?
there was definitely a time that I thought about that and maybe incorporating uh, my YouTube channel into a podcast, or sometimes. And I think as time goes on, we're seeing more and more integration of, hey, we're doing the YouTube, but it's also a podcast, or
Yep,
we're putting our podcast on YouTube, or whatever platform that, hey, maybe it gets some reach. So I think I'm gonna have to get a power cord, or this thing is going to die. So we may go through a little bit of
that's
background
cool.
change as I walk around here.
That is fine. I can definitely relate. So, how warm is it there today?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good.
So, is it pretty warm there today?
Uh, I can handle heat, but not cold.
Yeah, me too.
I
Especially
can
the
handle
older
a
I
little bit
get.
of cold for brief periods. Like if I lived in snow, I probably wouldn't like it, but to visit
Uh,
and go skiing or something like that, that's okay
yep.
for
I'm
a
with
short
you.
period of time.
I'm a frustrated beach bum. No, I like palm trees and I like sand beaches. So, yeah,
All right, let's see. Let me plug this in so it doesn't die on us while we're talking, and
sounds good.
maybe frame this up a little bit better. All right,
Perfect.
hopefully that's a little better.
Yep, looks good. Okay, okay. Have you ever? I mean, you haven't come to Nebraska. What are some of your favorite states that you've traveled to?
Well, like I said, I was highly impressed when I was a kid traveling to Alaska just because
I
it
could,
was weird living in a
I bet.
motorhome for 3 months.
Yeah, I could
Um,
see that too. Would you want to do that ever? Because you know a lot of people do that anymore. You know, they live. That's their only
like live
home.
the RV lifestyle.
Yeah,
Maybe. I don't know if my wife would be big into that, but traveling around just living in an RV might be okay for me.
yeah. I think it'd be because somebody's like, "Well, you just got to do it." It's like I think I'd want to try one out before I bought one. Because boy,
Yeah.
if these people that get rid of their houses, like, well, you're pretty obligated. Then I guess you can always sell it and get a house again. But no, I think that would be. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to try it, like you say. So okay. So what do your kids think of a vegetarian diet? Do they like that, or probably
My family doesn't follow the same diet that I do. So
okay? That's cool.
you know what I mean? Like I want them, it's just like kind of my philosophy in life is like I'm going to show you what I'm doing, but I don't need you to necessarily follow the same path.
Yep.
So
I think that's a good way to do it too, rather than just show them what's possible. And because it seems
yeah,
like
and
when
as a
you,
kid, it's like, do they eat too much candy on occasion? Absolutely. Do I try to limit their amount of candy? Yes. But I'm
uh
also,
huh,
you know what I mean? Like my kids
yeah,
eat meat. My wife eats meat. So,
yeah,
and I'll talk to them about that kind of stuff. Like, hey, you might consider not eating meat in the future. And my opinion too is like when I was younger, I ate very poorly. So
yeah, me too.
I'm making up for, you know what I mean? Like I've read some on longevity, and the more I read and the more I watch stuff, I think that that's one of the better ways to go is,
Yep.
hey, the more whole plants that you can put in your diet, the better. The more ultra processed stuff you can stay away from. Uh, and in my opinion, if you can stay away from meat and oils and that kind of stuff, that's
Yep.
good too. And how
Yeah.
much you get to decide. So
Yeah. That was one thing. My wife and I went to Italy at the end of June, July, and immediately we could tell the food tasted so much better. I mean, it was because we were with a group, and it's like, wow, this is so much different than we were used to here. And it's just like it was. I couldn't believe it. And I mean, I didn't care for their pizza much over there, but their food was. For one thing, we were right next to the. It was fresh seafood, which was good, but everything just seemed like it was. It had better flavor. It just tasted like real food. Like I kind of remember growing up, but now we, like you say, we have so much processed food here in the United States, um, and I don't think people maybe they don't think about it or don't care and don't think they don't know the harm it's doing until they see you. Uh, and I just think that it's just like, gosh, we need to. For one thing, my parents wouldn't. Some of this stuff is so processed, and it's just like, why do we in this country, when we know better, allow that kind of food to be even available? I guess it's letting like just people do it, but it's just like, but no, I was stunned by how much better the flavors of the food were just amazing there. But most of them there wasn't chains, it was local people cooking, and the food was awesome. And that's the number one thing I noticed over there in Italy. It's like this is really good. So and the plus other things, everybody spoke English. I was ready for Italian, and they did speak Italian, but everybody's like, no, we speak English, and it's like, okay, this is cool. It was definitely kind of like when you travel, you don't know what it's going to be like. Best education there is, because you don't know what a place is, somebody's going to be like until you're actually there. And no, I think that I love traveling. So you haven't been to Italy then? So or
no, I've been to
okay.
England, I've been to Germany, and Ukraine and Russia, but I've never been to Italy.
So what'd you think of England? It's on our list to go there. I've never been there, but
I was just in London, and I think it was in the financial district, and it was mainly for a very short learning thing. So
okay,
it
okay.
was it was cool on the drive back because we saw a lot, Big Ben's, Harrods,
Oh right,
the Eye, stuff like that. But it wasn't really a trip for sightseeing, which is
okay.
kind of
More
what
business
I want to
like.
do more of. So
Okay,
sight.
that sounds good. So okay, I always have to ask it's Dream Catcher podcast. What was your dream growing up as a kid?
What's funny is like I don't really remember a specific dream when I was young. So
Okay,
my parents were very religious,
okay,
and I remember I had a sister who had Down syndrome,
okay.
and so I can remember. I don't know if this is kind of what instilled in me, like protection, nursing. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Could
Like
be,
I
yeah.
saw a lot of what I felt was social injustice on how people treated her.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So it was.
Yep,
I always think that kind of honed my sense of what's right and what's wrong on how you treat people, I think.
I agree.
And when I was young, I don't really specifically remember having a dream. And I think we've talked a little bit about this. Like when I was a kid, it was almost painful to talk to people. You know what I mean? So my mom
Yeah.
was what I felt was like overly protective, and she was the one that was she was as a young age. I always thought of her as a health food freak. Like we always went to the
Okay.
health food store. I can remember we had a lot of carob in her house. It's like, what the heck is this? This is not chocolate.
No.
And then
Yeah.
on the weekends we go out with my dad, and he was the junk food junkie. Like we went
Oh
to
wow.
Circle K, 7-Eleven, the day old Hostess store, whatever it was.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? And we ate
Yep.
crap all day long. So,
Wow.
as
You got
far as a
both extremes
dream,
there.
I don't know if I was forward thinking enough to really have dreams. You know what I mean? So it was
Okay.
like, I think
And
I've developed dreams. Like, one of my dreams is to travel with cool people and have retreats in, far off exotic places.
so is that something you're working on now, or is that something in the future,
Yeah,
or
like, so I have an acquaintance, a buddy of mine who lives in Colombia. He's been there for 8 years, and I'm like talking to
nice?
him. It's like, I would love to see Colombia. Now, I've got small kids. My youngest is 3, just turned 3 last month, and
Okay.
so maybe I would take him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, we actually went to Turkey to meet his grandparents. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Before. or just after. I think it was like right after they broke some of
Oh, where you
the
can travel
limitations
yet?
on travel and stuff like that. So it
Okay.
wasn't last year, but it was the year before. We went to Turkey and got to hang out there. So that was kind of cool. You know what I mean? So
Did you like? I mean, did you like Turkey?
yeah. Once again, everything is different when you're in places like that. It's not like a big city like what I would think most Europe and America are. But they were big resorts. I think that this resort was run by a French company. So, like in that
Okay.
area, I think it was close to a town called Anatoly. They have a lot of big resorts. And I believe we were on the Mediterranean seaside. So there was beach, but
Nice.
it wasn't like the beach, tropical beach. It was different. They had
Right.
a lot of, little lounge chairs and pup tents and stuff like that. And it wasn't big and it wasn't what I would, you know what I mean? It's not like the pictures from Hawaii or
Right. Right.
some really cool
Yeah.
place. So
Yeah, and that's kind of the way where we were on the Mediterranean with Italy too, and it was really almost black sand. It was really kind of coarse sand too, and it's just like, well, this is actually was in Clearwater, and they had almost like flour. The sand was so pretty and everything, and it's interesting how the sand varies too. But it kind of had where you had to buy your umbrella to be on the beach where we were at in Italy, and so you knew how much everybody paid because they gave you a different color umbrella. And it's like I don't know if I like that either. So, but it was like yeah, it was different. It wasn't like what I think of, like you say, tropical, Hawaii and stuff. But now Turkey. So you've been quite a few places. So is that on your YouTube channels, or
nope, I didn't really start playing around too much with YouTube until more recently. So
okay? So do you speak, or would you ever want to be a speaker? On
maybe.
which? Okay. So author? What's your
No, not yet. I've thought about that too. Like, what would I write about? So yeah, I
okay?
mean, there's some things that I think are kind of interesting in my past, but would other people find them interesting? Yeah, and I don't,
I bet they would.
when I was young, I hated to write. I nearly failed my junior English because we were supposed to turn in a journal page every week, and I think I turned in two for the year. So it was just
Oh
like
wow.
I love to read, but
Yep.
writing, and the older I get, like I think that writing truly is good for your brain, and it is
Yep.
good to write things pen to paper, and
I think
it's
so
good for
too.
your goals. I think that as I get older, I try to write, like even on my Facebook, I try to put like a little something most mornings. I'm trying to do that on a more regular basis, just some random thoughts. And
Yeah.
I think that it helps with clarity, like
Yeah.
you getting clear on who you are, what you stand for, what your dreams and goals may be. So, and I think that, there's this big, huge push toward AI, but I think that there's a
Yeah.
certain area that you need to protect in your own mind, and being able to write and
I
maybe have a
agree.
journal or
Yep.
spend some time on a fairly regular basis of writing stuff down, like
Yep.
your thoughts, your past history, your
Yep.
memories.
Yeah, and I agree. And I didn't care for writing at all either. And I'm better. I kind of like journaling. I like bringing it into the physical, with on pen and paper. But once I get into it, I kind of get into it, But it's easy for me to fall out of writing too.
Yeah.
And it's just like I really should do that every day. And I mean, I have numerous journals, but they get started and then it's like, nope, didn't fell
I do too.
short on.
I don't know what they're. I think I've read something before about your different personality things, classes. I don't know exactly what they are. And conscientiousness is probably not high on my. Like, I'm not. I don't know if I necessarily have ADD, but starting something and not finishing it in my past was a thing. You know what I mean? And then like,
Yep.
I'm not. I'm not dirty, but you know what I mean? Like my living room is a total mess because my kid took every toy out of the toy
Oh,
box, and it
sure.
might
Especially
take
at
a
that
while
age.
before it gets cleaned
Uh
up.
huh.
You know what I mean? It's not
Yep.
gonna happen right away. So
No, and I think that's good because some people would have it put away immediately. It's just like let the kid play. It's just like because I actually have some relatives that are. It's like as soon as you put something on the table, they're wiping the table, and it's just like oh my gosh, I can't imagine being that way. And no, I think it's good to it's good to have a balance on pretty much everything. So if you didn't live in Arizona, where would be a place you would move to? Have you ever thought about that?
I'm not sure. Like, I think my wife. So one of my wife's best friends, and she kind of like I went to the Ukraine to meet her. I met her online, and then
Okay.
she had an interpreter, and that was one of her friends. That like after we met in Ukraine, we went to Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic
Oh wow.
for a
Okay.
week, and I think that she kind of would love to move to Europe somewhere. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how feasible that would be, but
Yeah. No, I
that would be
think.
a huge change for me. You know what I mean? I've lived in the same place most of my life, so
Yeah. No, it's interesting with how life how life happens. That's for sure too. But because really, until it wasn't that long, I really hadn't traveled much at all. I've traveled more. Well, my wife Cheryl had cancer back in 2015, 2016, and that kind of got us traveling short trips. And one thing, I mean, she lived through it, but it gave us clarity that we better do it now. It's just like, and that kind of got us started. And we both love traveling. It was like going over there, and the flight's long. We flew from Denver to Munich as we're the first flight, and then Munich to Naples as we're in Italy. And it's like, yeah, if I could just be there and not have to do the 10 hour, it was over 10 hours from just there,
yeah.
and the expense, because it's like, and Lufthansa is who we flew, which did a great job, but it was just like, oh my gosh, I can see why people do first class and business class. That's a long time to be in. Oh my gosh.
Cooped
And
up.
they fed us, and we were economy, fed us like every 2 hours. So they kept us occupied with food. But no, it would be interesting to try it. I think I would definitely miss the United States if I moved over there. I mean, I I don't know. I've been pretty much I was started out in Colorado. In fact, my wife and I both did, but pretty much the central part of the United States is about all I really know. And I would miss everybody because I'm the community that I'm closest to is 3,000. So everybody knows everybody. That would be definitely different. Um, just like Naples. Naples was like 3 million, a city of 3 million or something like that. And how many people are in Phoenix in that area?
It's the fifth largest. I don't know.
Pretty good size then.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of times they talk about Phoenix Metropolitan because there's all these cities together. You know what I mean?
Uh huh.
There's Phoenix, there's Glendale, there's Scottsdale, there's Peoria, you know what I mean? Gilbert,
Yep.
Chandler, Mesa, all those they consider the Phoenix Metropolitan. So I think when they count that it's the fifth largest, it's because all those
All together with
conglomerate
the
of cities together.
That's a lot of people. So I saw your Facebook. There's something like you were promoting travel, something on your Facebook. What is that about then?
Well, I belong also to an MLM that
Okay.
it's kind of like a travel thing. It used to be a company called World Ventures. At one point, they were the fastest growing network marketing company, but then COVID hit, and they
Yeah.
went away, and then they came back as something else. And so I'm involved in that, and that's part of what I'm doing also. So
Okay.
maybe people who are following me can find a way to pay for their travel as they go. That's an option.
Okay.
Um,
So
and so, and having that available, like, hey, maybe you can do this and promote this, and it can be an income to where you can also use that to pay for your trip or whatever.
okay.
That
So how do you? I mean, do you like MLM and network marketing? I've never had any dealings with that. Is that pretty good business model?
I think that there's different levels of people in network marketing. So what I do like is some of the people that I'm involved with. Do you know what I'm
Okay.
saying? So I think that and I like being parts of communities or building communities or being with people that I have some common interest in.
Sure.
So for me, that is part of the draw. Like I like some of the people that are in there. So
Mm-hmm.
that to me is like, how can I help them? How can I get them to
Right.
whatever they're trying to get out of their what is their dream and what are they trying to accomplish?
Right. Exactly. So how did you cross paths with this particular company or companies?
There's a lady that I know of in the valley, and she was involved with it. And I think she's in the East Valley, so I don't see her in person much, but I do see her stuff on Facebook. So it was kind of social media that I got attracted to some of the stuff that she was doing. So I started asking her about that.
Okay.
and that's kind of how I got involved.
Okay. Would you? I mean, have you ever done any other MLMs or network marketing? Any other companies?
There was another company that I was kind of involved with. It was more so at the time. I had a smoke shop, which
Okay.
now I'm all into health. Why did I have a smoke shop? I don't know. Once
Well.
again, this was another person that I was involved with.
Uh
He had
huh.
successfully ran smoke shops. He talked me into being a business partner with him, and it took
Okay.
up all my time. So between my
Uh.
being a nurse and helping run a smoke shop in, 43 miles one way from my
Oh
house
wow.
to the smoke shop,
Okay.
um, it took up all my time. So there was a couple years that it took up all my time, and I had a buddy who wanted to get into real estate investing and all this,
Right.
and so he got into this, and I basically paid for all of it, and he was the one that was going to work the angles on it, and we didn't really make much of it at the time. So,
Okay.
and like I said, for me, it was like, I'll give you money, but I ain't investing any time in this because I got no time. So
Yeah, no, I hear you. That so, and smoke shops. I mean, we all learn. I mean, it's kind of a journey, a process, and everything.
yeah,
So,
the
so
I think the thing that was the most interesting to me was learning some of the plants. So, you know what I mean? Like marijuana. So
right,
everybody's
right,
going into the smoke shop. A lot of them are
yeah,
buying their blunts so that they
right,
can, get rid of the tobacco and fill it with marijuana or
right,
whatever, you know what I mean? So
right.
a lot of your customers are there because they're smoking pot. So,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of other weird things that, you know what I mean? Like CBD wasn't really big or
Okay.
I didn't know about it
Right.
way
Okay.
back when, and I learned about it because most smoke shops carried CBD and
I bet.
kratom and some other things that are kind of questionable, you know what I mean? Salvia and some other stuff. So to me, like learning some of those weird plants and like they're hallucinogenic or
Right.
in my mind, marijuana has medicinal purpose. There, you know what I mean?
Seems like
Like
it.
even
Yep.
in medicine, they've got Marinol, which is a pill that people take when they're nauseated. That even though marijuana, I think, is still considered a Schedule One thing, according to
Yep.
the U.S. government, it has
Yep.
no medicinal purpose. But I would argue it really does.
Yes. Okay.
But you know what I mean? I think even that's changing a little bit
I think so
in
too.
our
I think
world.
so.
So.
Yeah. So in Arizona, it's all right to smoke marijuana then?
We both have medicinal and recreational. You know what I mean?
Okay.
The difference
Yep.
probably is just how much you're going to get taxed.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's true too. So yeah, I mean, I know Colorado's that way too. In Nebraska, it may be a while yet. We don't even have a medicinal, and but
Yeah,
that does
I
not
know there's
surprise
still a few
me.
states that don't. So
Yeah, it's just like nope. We're. I mean, Nebraska's so conservative. I mean, we're very, very
yes,
conservative.
Arizona used to be. I think we're getting less and less so, just because of you know. I think we're a huge melting pot. I think that even you find a lot of people that aren't from here. Like most people that I
I
meet,
bet.
they're not from Arizona. They're not from the Phoenix area. You know what I mean? They've moved
I
here
could.
from somewhere. And I think that one of the things I hear too is like, we're not really Midwestern in the fact that like a lot of people don't know their neighbors. You know what I mean? They
Right.
don't go
Right.
over for the family barbecue at their
Right.
neighbor's
Right.
house. And,
Yep.
so it's a little more, I don't want to call it segregated, but it's just like it and you know what I mean? Maybe other people have a different impression of Phoenix than I do, but it just seems like people aren't, hanging around each other like they do in
And I
like the Midwest and stuff
definitely
like
can believe that. I mean, I know a lot of people that go down to that area, especially for the winter and stuff like that. So okay, with the nurse, I mean, did you always want to be a nurse, or how did that come about?
that. Once again, it was just kind of finding my way. Like my first degree was in accounting, and I'm
Okay.
very glad I never became an accountant. So
Oh, that would be me too. I feel for people that enjoy that. I'm glad there
yes,
are
like
people that enjoy
I
that.
do like numbers to an extent, but to do it all day and
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like the only bachelor's degree that I have is in accounting, and I don't know why I chose that other than I thought I would make good money or something
Sure.
like
I
that
can
around
understand
that.
that
So
very
it was
much. No.
my first degree. Then I started studying some computer science type stuff, and then
Okay.
I worked with a lady who was in a nursing program. So I started taking some biology classes. Those fascinated me. So the next thing I know, I'm in a nursing program and I'm getting a nursing degree.
Okay. So a nurse, I mean, do you put, I mean, I have some actually nurses in my family that put in like 12-hour days. Is that what you do too? Or,
Yeah. Well, I work in a cath lab now, and
okay.
traditionally, most cath lab nurses don't work 12-hour shifts, but we do. So I do
Okay.
anyway. Like most cath labs are either 8 or 10-hour days. They work either 5 or 4 days a week. The
Okay.
big thing within the cath lab, some of the specialty areas you have to take call. So
Oh, really? Okay.
if somebody's having a heart attack and there's a to get like national accreditation to be a heart center or whatever, you're supposed
Right.
to take care of a STEMI door to balloon time in 90 minutes. So if somebody is actually having a heart
Wow.
attack, they're showing changes in their EKG that suggest that they are having a heart attack. They're supposed to be seen in the cath lab where they're getting the balloon inflated in their coronary artery 90 minutes from when they're first seen at
Wow.
the door in the ER.
That's fast. I mean, that's really,
It's supposed to be. And I've heard doctors, even doctors say, I think it's more a marketing thing.
yeah, I
But
can see
you know what I
that.
mean? Anytime that your heart muscle is not getting oxygen, it is dying. So
Yeah. No, that is, and yeah, I can see why you'd want to be fast. That's for sure. So, I mean, um, so would you ever want to change from doing what you're doing as that kind of nursing to a different type of nursing?
the only thing that I would change is not having to take call. So getting woke
Okay.
up in the middle of the night is still not my favorite thing.
I
Luckily,
can
we're
understand.
not a super busy cath lab, so it doesn't happen as often as when I was younger.
Okay.
So that part is good. But
So
yes,
okay, so you say cath lab? So is
yep.
that just catheter? Does that mean when you're? Is that what
Yeah,
that
so
means?
catheter just means a hollow tube. So they're basically putting a catheter in your artery up to your heart, injecting contrast and watching it flow through your heart arteries.
Okay, so that's where you tell him. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, seeing how much damage or whatever, or what's gone on with the heart. Then okay.
Seeing if there's a narrowing, or in the case of somebody having a heart attack, it's usually the arteries completely closed. So
Oh wow. Okay. So there's a lot of. I mean, I imagine there's a lot of excitement or a lot of urgency. I would guess probably.
yes, I've been doing it a long time, so I don't usually get too
Yeah.
wound up unless somebody goes into a lethal heart rhythm. Then I wake up, but
I see that. I can definitely see
because
that.
you got to shock them quick. So yes.
Oh wow. I mean that is. Um, but no, that is amazing. So okay, so Mark, anything else you want to share with the audience today, Dreamcatcher podcast audience, that you're doing or thinking about doing?
Those are the big things. Like I said, to me, I'm kind of focused on like uh, making something around travel and
Okay,
trying to stay healthy. The longevity thing, like to me, it's not necessarily how long I live, but I want to stay functional as long as I can. I don't want to be in
amen.
a wheelchair. I don't want to have a stroke and not be able to move
Yep,
part of my body or
I
something
agree.
like this. So to me, that's why I've adopted. Um, I've always been pretty active in my life. So
Mm-hmm.
this past year has probably been my least active. So I'm trying to develop routines around that a little better. You know what I mean? But
Yep.
getting the diet a little more dialed in is
Yeah.
kind of a little bit of the focus and something that I'm exploring. Like, hey, and I know that you know what I mean? What I'm also trying to be like, maybe I want to speak more. Maybe I want to be on podcasts more. Maybe I
Sure.
want, you know what I mean? Like, I think that
Right.
that is part of how you get your
Yeah.
message out. Like, I
Yep.
appreciate your podcast. I think that's cool. And I'm going, like, I
Thank you.
haven't seen it yet. So now I'm going to go and, like, hey, I got to go check out the YouTube channel and look at
Uh
some of
huh.
his previous, because my only experience with you is Facebook. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
and that sounds like you're not on there often. So I'm glad I met you on there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, no, I'm glad our paths crossed. So, no, it just Facebook's good. I mean, social media is good. Like everything, it's got both good and bad, but it is a definitely a good medium. So, so Mark, well, thank you for being a guest on the Dreamcatcher podcast, and I look forward to getting to know you better, even through Facebook or maybe another podcast or when you get your podcast.
Maybe I will. I don't know. Like I said, maybe this YouTube will also, generate a podcast out of it. I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, like I think it's cool. Like I think it's the interview thing is cool because it opens your mind up to different perspectives. Like
Yep.
that's why I'm not pushy about anything because I know, like I'm going to make a stance. Like I am going to be vegan. You know what I mean? If you want to follow me, I'm going to put and when I say vegan, like I'm not hardcore all the time. Like I do eat a slice of my wife's cake every once in a while. So
Sure.
I
Kind
am
of
saying that
a
I
good
eat,
balance.
yeah, probably 90% or greater. It's pretty hardcore vegan. You know what I mean? But
Right.
do I occasionally have a slice of cake? Do I occasionally, like if they served me a salad and they put the cheese on it that I asked for them to take off, would I just scrape it off and still eat some of the cheese? Absolutely. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So to me, it's not like that, but
No, I think that's a great way to be.
so
I
I
think.
think it's about leading people by example and
Amen.
teaching them from your past experiences and stories. So
Yes, I think that is definitely the way to teach. That I think people are more receptive to it that way too, by a long, long ways,
yeah,
rather
like
than
I'm never going to convince somebody who's following a carnivore diet to stop their carnivore diet. And
no,
they're probably not going to follow me anyway because there's no
no,
mutual
they're
interest in diet anyway. Maybe there's some other things like travel that they would want to go
yeah,
do with me, but
right.
they're probably not going to follow my advice on, hey, eat more veggies,
Yeah,
especially if they don't ever eat veggies. So
yeah. But if you do it that way, you might pique an interest in their head, and their mind. Sometimes it's like, maybe I should try that sometime, or
yeah, and I'm willing to have the conversation with them. Like, why do you know what I mean? Like to me, in my mind, most people they're eating those kind of diets for they think that ketosis is going to help them, and they also think that they need the animal protein to maintain muscle. That's, in
hmm
my opinion, why most people follow that kind of diet.
yeah, yeah, I would agree on that too. So no, it's all really interesting. And diets, I think it's about time, and maybe not Nebraska, but it's changing more towards that kind of diet anyway. So, because like you said, the proof is kind of that. Um, well, you can just see it in Nebraska, where it's like we were talking before, meat and potatoes. There definitely is studies, and it shows, with the heart and everything, and plugged arteries and all that stuff. So, it's kind of a journey, all a process getting towards, because health is wealth. I mean, when you have and I agree with you. I want to stay healthy because, I mean, homes are better than they used to be, but I still would never want to go to one.
Yes, I
Yeah,
want to stay in my own house till
me
they
too.
drag me out.
Yeah, I don't want to have to be, because the home that's locally, they're starting to put them to bed at 5:30, and it's like, why would you put them to bed at 5:30 in the evening? I mean, they're going to be awake at midnight. So,
Yeah, once again, you lose a lot of control in your life when you
yeah,
go in a place like
yeah,
that.
you just feel you're being basically kind of warehoused, and they are better than they used to be, but health is
My
wealth, and
first
I want to
job
stand.
after nursing school was in a nursing home
Was
slash
it?
medical unit. So yes, I've seen like
Mm,
some of the stuff that I don't
nope,
want that.
nope, no, I don't either, and my wife knows that I don't either. We both agree. It's
Mhm.
just like, and my mom had like Alzheimer's dementia, and she got it early on, and I mean, they did pretty good at the home where she was at, but no way. And I guarantee you, I want to keep my brain as healthy as possible too. I
I
definitely don't
That's
want to
one of
go
the
that.
things that I want is to stay as sharp as I can for as
Yep.
long as I can.
Yep.
So
Nope. I hear you. So, well, Mark, on that, I'm going to end the podcast for today. And thank you for being the guest. And I look forward to having you back on the podcast, or, like I said, being maybe on your podcast sometime in the future.
or
So,
maybe we'll travel together.
hey, man, that would be awesome. I definitely would agree on that. So I will look forward to that. So that's a win-win. I will definitely look forward to that. So, but on that, I will let you go. And thanks for joining us today. And have a good rest of your day.
All right, sir. It was great to connect. See ya. Talk to you live.
Okay, sounds good.